issue. So it's a term that not everyone knows, but I'll quickly take you through what it is and how it works. Content aggregation happens if you source information from existing news stories or other content. So you take some content that exists and you use it to inform a news story. It is done unfairly if your news story mirrors the stories that you use to aggregate, because then you're just saying what someone else said. Content aggregation is done fairly if the newly created content is clearly distinguishable from the source reports because it has a unique angle and or unique elements. Example. Psychology Today writes that children who are abused usually end up suffering from PTSD. It says that according to a US Department of Health and Human Services statistics for 2006, approximately 905,000 US children were found to have been maltreated that year, with 16% of them reported as having been physically abused. The remainder suffered sexual abuse and neglect. In other studies, it's been noticed that approximately 14 to 43% of children have experienced at least one traumatic abusive event prior to adulthood, and according to the American Humane Association, an estimated 1,460 children died in 2005 of abuse and neglect. So this is my source report. I see this in Psychology Today. I want to use this to make a news story. I must do that fairly. What I'm going to show you firstly is an example of unfair content aggregation. In this text, you'll note some of it is red, some of it is black. The red text, I changed the word order. Okay, so I'm saying the same thing, I'm using different words. Even if you use different words to say the same thing, it is unfair content aggregation, even if you use different words. Okay, so you will see this piece says exactly the same as the source piece, it only says it differently. And if you do that, your aggregation is unfair. Now I'm going to show you an example of fair content aggregation. We start with regular therapy and meditation can assist in reducing the long-term trauma experienced by victims of child abuse. So immediately from the start, I have a unique angle. And then I include what they said, absolutely. But I also speak to a South African psychologist, and I phone Stats SA, I get some South African statistics. So I put a unique spin on something existing, and you can very clearly distinguish between this and the original story. Whereas if you look at this story, it says the same thing in a different way.
And then can I please ask, what's the difference between unfair aggregation and plagiarism?
Good question. The definition of plagiarism is I take someone else's work and I misrepresent it as my own. So that would entail copying and pasting. That would entail using the exact same words. So if I take your story word for word and I put it under my byline, that is plagiarism. If I take a press release and I put it under my byline, that is plagiarism.
It's a lazier form of
Yeah. So plagiarism is lazy, unfair content aggregation. If you aggregate, you are at least using different words. So it's not plagiarism anymore.
No, you just use a synonym. So instead of saying big, you use a synonym.
Large, yeah.
Large.
Instead of big, you'd say large. So here they use regularly instead of frequently. If you just use different words to say the same thing, then it's aggregation. Do you understand the difference between plagiarism and aggregation? I'm going to take another question now. I just want to finish. Okay, some tips on aggregation. Aggregation can be compared to research. You source information from different source reports. You don't copy what it says. There's no copying and pasting, okay? You write your own original story which features the information from your source reports, but you're not copying and pasting. You're just saying what they said, and you add your own unique spin. When aggregating, use multiple sources. The more the better. My personal rule of thumb is 4. If I want to write a story from Google Info, I use at least 4 sources. I attribute each source and I hyperlink to each source. Credit each source fully and hyperlink to them, and then you have yourself some fair aggregation, and that is aggregation in a nutshell.
Thank you.